Hello and welcome to the European Resilience Initiative Center video podcast. People's Republic of China remains one of the main global players, economically, politically, and militarily. China's President Xi Jinping, re-elected to the third term in March 2023, seems to control his country more and in a harsher way than most of his predecessors. But with the current world challenges like the Russo-Ukrainian war, the Israel-Hamas conflict, and also with the upcoming political turbulences amid the US presidential elections, what is Chinese strategy? And how President Xi can keep his grasp over China's politics? To answer these questions, we have invited Professor Junhua Zhang, who is a senior associate at the European Institute for Asia Studies, and he's also a guest professor at the American University in Kyiv. Welcome, Professor Zhang.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you that you have found time for this conversation. And for our audience, don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe to this channel so you will not miss interviews like this. Professor Zhang, what is China's situation in the politics now, in internal politics? We know that, like for several years, it looked like our presidency is in full control of what is happening in the country, and his influence was extremely strong. But now you have recently published an analysis saying that there can be some challenges, and the state media and other institutions change the tone on how to write and to say about President Xi. Could you elaborate this? What does it mean, or what can it mean?
Okay, first, this is a really very important question because to understand China, we need to know what is Xi Jinping thinking. So, first of all, I think the perception of the West on China and the perception of Xi Jinping himself on the country, they are not always the same. So in this sense, I will say, Xi Jinping realized that China is facing many challenges, especially the domestic economy. This is a big issue because without a sound economy, the CCP, that is the Chinese Communist Party, doesn't have a solid foundation, and that is why the economy matters very much. But the point is that how to achieve that. So I think Xi Jinping has different concept. It is also in line with the tradition of the Chinese Communist Party, in the sense that China prefer promoting kind of industrial policy. That is, China first set the targets. What are the important sectors in the industry, and what are the important products in the industry, and then China used kind of nationwide measures to promote them or resources. So this is, in this sense, I mean, the electric cars, for example, this is a typical case. And actually, China, it's already in 2020, I think, the Chinese Communist Party realized that we need to do something which is different from the West, with which we can surpass the West, and that is the electric car. So, I mean, actually, in the first 20 years, there was nothing special, say, achievement. But when China invited Tesla to build a factory there, then China benefited a lot from it, because Tesla helped China to build a kind of supply chain, which is very important for the industry. And people finally realized what kind of benchmark is it for the electric cars and so on. So this way, with the resources the central government has, I think this industry has been promoted very much. But the point here is that I think Xi Jinping realized that China is facing huge problem like the housing problem, the real estate problem. And by the way, this sector makes up kind of 20 to 30 percent of GDP, which is a big chunk. It concerns almost the interest of every people, every person in China, especially the middle class. So actually, let's put it this way: why the consumption why the consumption is so bad, the purchase power is so low, just because the housing sector doesn't work. So I mean, this also is related to other sectors like a steel sector, cement, and furniture, whatever. So it is a huge part of the economy. But the idea of Xi Jinping is different. He wants to promote the so-called high-tech sector, and with which he can rescue the so-called less advanced industry, that is the housing sector, whatever. But the point is that I think it's a race against time. The question is that whether he will really win this race. This is still uncertain because you see that in order to since the purchase power in China is so weak, so Chinese, they have already bought enough electric cars, but the rest, a large number of the products, they are still they are not sold. So China has to dump all these products abroad. And where is the real market? The real market is Europe or the US. But the US closed the door, definitely, and Europe is hesitating. So what China is now doing is to make the Europeans understand that the Chinese mean it seriously with the threat like if you don't let me in, then we will punish you. So this is a very tricky play between two sides, and I will say this is but the issue is that if China cannot export so many goods, then all these so-called high-tech products won't help China's economy because China won't get revenue. So this is a dilemma what the Chinese leadership is facing, and I think this is a very serious issue. So that's why the debates, the discussions, and also let's say the interactions between EU and China is now so intense and so intensive and so important.
What you describe is mostly the concerns of economic nature, consumption market, the level of investments, the pace of economic growth. How much does President Xi Jinping controls this development? It is normally not the goal or not the task of a state leader to think about how much of real estate market will add to growth, what kind of development on automobile market we should do. This is the in the best case, it is the task of a responsible ministry. How much is Xi in the economic planning in China?
Okay, I would say to a certain extent, the Chinese Communist Party has become kind of big company. It's no more like it's a government which is so diverse and so differentiated, and so no, it's they have the same voice and they have the same team, and it's kind of up-down policy. There is no kind of it's a button-up approach. So this is one thing. The second thing is that before Xi Jinping, we really can talk about a kind of mixed economy in the sense that there are kind of state-owned enterprises and there are private enterprises and so on. They are really quite different. But when Xi Jinping came to power, he changed this landscape. Formally, China still has lots of enough, say, private sectors and so on. But the point is that I think he politicized already the industries by, for example, establish party organization there, usually within the private sector, private company. There is no party secretary or things like that, you know. But now, everywhere there is a representative of the party. So what is his task or her task? Their task is to say, to convey, stick to the policy made above. And in this sense, I think there is a consequent implementation of the Chinese industrial policy. I call it industrial policy because it is very special. Industrial policy is not a product of market economy. It is pure either mixed economy or it is non-market economy. So the essence of the industrial policy is that don't benefit citizens too much. Don't, let's say, it in the sense of wages, in the sense of working conditions, and so on, so on. So, but the government promotes strongly the sectors or the products which the government thinks that they are promising. And that is the case of, again, the electric vehicles. Yeah. So I think this kind of industrial policy has been consequently implemented, but I think during Xi Jinping's administration, it has become more important than before. So because he is very convinced that this is exactly the effectiveness of China's economy with the help of industrial policies. Without it, China cannot surpass the US, for example, and that is the base of the Chinese understanding of economy.
How strong are his positions within the party and within the state in regard to this change of tune of mentioning him, which you have mentioned in your analysis?
Yeah, how strong? Very strong. Very strong in the sense that people, actually everywhere, people still have different views and different, they have, especially those who really understand the situation in China, they understand the economy and so on, so on. But the point is that they have fear to speak it out. Because this is, again, typical Xi Jinping, because he created kind of CCP discipline, saying that if a party member starts to talk about the policies above or the fraud of the policies, then it's already kind of crime. So you can imagine, and this, at first, this is valid for the party member, but it is also valid for all academics. So in this sense, let's say before Xi Jinping, there was the Chinese economists. They had the most freedom to talk about China, because usually people say, if you talk about the economy, it's not a politics, so it's okay, talk about it. Really, there was different fractions, like say liberal and conservative or whatever. different type, pro-market or against market, whatever. But they could talk about things publicly without any kind of fear. But today, the liberal fraction, they cannot voice air their say view anymore in this sense publicly. I mean, so this is the huge problem. I don't think that the economy can be revived easily without such kind of liberal atmosphere for the economists.
But what was the reason for the party to increase control over even economic discussions to such extent? Normally, you don't do it when your economy is flourishing.
Well, the reason is the I would say Xi Jinping is to a certain extent similar to Mao Zedong in terms of personality cult. So he loves this kind of personality cult. He loves to be praised all the time as kind of great leader who knows everything and so on. So in this sense, I think, this created kind of pressure or fear, say, for many people who have different views. So that is I think the point. It means that formally he is really very powerful, and actually, I mean, he's also very convinced that everything he is doing is correct. For example, the zero COVID policy. Yeah, of course, he can also suddenly change his policy because you cannot stick to the zero COVID policy all the time. Otherwise, the economy could be really collapse really totally. So he changed his policy, but he didn't admit that he made a mistake. So that is the problem. Yeah. And I think in the economic policy, as I said, he thought that we can use the so-called new type of productivity. It is his term. He created this term. That is the so-called high-tech sectors. He thinks the so-called promising high-tech sectors, they can rescue everything. So that is his policy, and that is the reason why the traditional sectors, they are suffering, and many people in China, especially young people, they are suffering. They cannot find a decent job, and so on, and the middle class is shrinking, and that is the reality.
How does this economic development and this increase of the control of the economy, how does it relate it to China's foreign policy? China tried to increase its influence in most regions in the world, in Africa, in South America, in Asia, of course, but also to demonstrate its ability to be a global political leader, for example, trying to introduce its vision of how to end the Russo-Ukrainian war. What is the relations here between the foreign policy and internal domestic policy?
Yeah. I think 2 points should be made. The first one is the mercantilist style of China's, say, international economic policy, in the sense that the Chinese mercantilism it can be explained this way. First, it is important to develop its own industry to surpass the other advanced countries, especially the U.S. The benchmark is the U.S. mainly. So and then to produce as many say products as possible, and to export them to other countries. So the so-called Belt Road Initiative has also such kind of aim to bring the Chinese products everywhere, but mainly the major target that they are the advanced countries, because the purchase power in advanced countries is the highest one. So in that sense, the Belt Road they lead to Europe, for example, or to other say developed countries. So that is the design. I mean the design. And this, I think sometimes we will say, partly it is also smart in the sense that China has been having the problem of overproduction, and somehow you have to get rid of these products. So where? So that is the policy of the Belt Road, in the sense that we are helping countries like in Africa, in Southeast Asia, and so on to build infrastructure. And China has enough manpower and enough cement, enough steel, enough material to build, and also the manufacturing ability to build them. And that is very special, I think. And the other thing is that, as I said, but the major target is to export, say, high-tech products, not low tech, high tech, to say advanced countries, and that is what is now happening with the electric vehicles. But this is one point. The other point is that China has been a beneficiary in the Ukrainian war, in the sense that while Europe is suffering from the Ukraine war greatly due to the higher price of energy, this and that, and so on, but China is benefiting from it, benefiting from both sides, from Russia and from Ukraine, actually mainly from Russia. I mean, why? It is quite clear because Russia used to be, say, the say energy provider for European countries, mainly, but now due to the war, it changed suddenly. So Russia shifted to Asia, mainly to China, and China welcomed this kind of policy, and Russia now opens its market to China, which was not the case before the war. So China benefited a lot by exporting rubbish cars and so on to Russia or whatever, so many goods. And it is incredible. And also China can import cheap oil, cheap gas, and so on. I mean, many pipelines are already in place, but a new pipeline, that is the Siberia Power 2, will be built. And with these projects, I think China will gain a lot in terms of the energy security. And they are not pure clean energy, but at least, say, cleaner than the coal. So that is, I think, the advantage China has gained from the war. So I think, and in addition, I think China has also gained a lot from the war due to Russia's now so-called generosity to give China military technologies, sensitive technologies, while China has a huge power of China is a powerhouse of manufacturing, and especially in many facilities, and China also helped Russia by bringing them, say, to Russia to enhance their military industry. So in this case, there is a kind of positive interaction between two sides. In this sense, I would say, of course, there is another moment I have to mention, that is the ideological one. Because let's say, Putin is not a communist, but Xi Jinping is a communist. Okay, that's seemingly there is difference. But in reality, somehow they still can come together because Xi Jinping, let's say, lamented the collapse of Soviet Union. Yeah, Soviet Union was kind of a model of the communism, socialism, whatever, and the collapse, it was a disaster. So he would love to see a kind of revival of Soviet Union. And Putin, he actually originally he didn't intend to revive the Soviet Union, but he wanted to revive the Russian Empire. And this kind of Russian Empire is mainly based on the so-called Soviet Union. So there is kind of coherence, and I think both sides come together not only due to this point. Another point is that both really are determined to create a new global order, and that is very important. A global order includes many aspects, especially, for example, the financial one. Russia got the sanction from the West, and so Russia realized that we need to create a new financial system to evade these sanctions. But China is also thinking that, okay, we need to internationalize our currency, that is the renminbi, and only through this kind of new financial system, not today's SWIFT system, which exists say in the West, in the world, and which is say in which the dollar is dominance and so on, so on. Not that, but there should be another system, and that's why the BRICS summit this year, that will be it will take place in October. That was the major target, major issue of the BRICS summit in October. So that's why Xi Jinping will personally will go to say Russia to attend this summit in person, because these two countries are the major say creator of this kind of new global financial system. And I think the financial system, as I said, is a very important part of the global order. So in this sense, both have something common. And I think we should realize that, yes, judging the nature of each nation, I would say nobody likes a war. But the point is that the leadership thinks somehow differently. So unfortunately, I think the world doesn't have the luck to have, say, kind of enlightened leader. Sometimes we have leader like Xi Jinping or Putin and so on. So they like to create create another global order. So in this sense, Xi Jinping is in a very interesting situation. On the one hand, he realized that he has to make use of existing global order by utilizing the Western market, the Western capital, the Western technologies. But on the other, he's creating another global order. And that's the reality.
Indeed, and we have seen how strongly does China cooperate with Russia, and all these constant visits of Vladimir Putin to China, and the supply of parts for the drones and like other military equipment. Also, the fact that obviously China has green lighted delivery of North Korean ammunition and military equipment to Russia. This all shows that China has a strong interest in this Russia-Chinese military cooperation. But you have mentioned already how Chinese companies try to expand their presence in the West, and how it is in line with political interest of a Chinese elite. We are observing in Germany since months a debate about Chinese technological presence in Germany on one hand, for example, the servers, the microchips, the telecommunication technologies, but also how much Germany may allow itself be dependent from production in China. We have seen recently the statements by Volkswagen, the car manufacturer, that they cannot avoid being a major player as a producer on the Chinese market. Uh, what is China's strategy here in making Germany dependent on Chinese market and on Chinese technologies? And is it somehow dangerous for Germany?
Okay. First of all, I think it is important to point out that that there is a problem of market access for the Western companies, not only for the German companies, but it is probably not valid for the automobile industry. Actually, automobile industry they did earn lots of money in China, and that is why Germans are so enthusiastic about China and German industries. I mean, the automobile industries, they love China in the sense that they pour so much money there still today. I mean, the German companies invested the most, say, money in China than many other nations. This is one thing. I think we should look at these things differentiatedly in the sense that, or in a more historical context. First, before Xi Jinping, there was really very kind of pleasant interaction between two sides. Let's say, especially you see that the former German Chancellor Angela Merkel always said, we should promote change, promote transition through trade. Yeah, and or this that let's say when we enhance the trade with China, then automatically there will be change there in terms of political change, whatever. So this kind of hope existed, and it was a huge hope for all the Western countries, but especially for Germans. So that's why German was most engaged in the Sino-German cooperation, be it in technology, be it in kind of company, different companies, and so on, so on. It's immense. But that was the period during the former chancellor. Since Xi Jinping came to power, I think Germans didn't perceive any kind of change. They would say China remains the same. Actually, China is no more the same. That is the problem. I think the perception of many Germans, they still in an old stage. So what I wanted to say is that, and this hinder kind of change, adjustment of the policy among Germans, and that is the problem. Actually, let's put it this way: we both sides have the problem of let's say security issue. Let's say telecom, the infrastructure for internet and so on. It's a security issue. Actually, China has already created its own system. Well, when China use any kind of parts of, say, foreign parts, then China try to use it in a very, very cautious way. So there is no discussion because it's a simple up-down policy. But in German everywhere, it's kind of a bottom-up approach. So almost about everything, it should be discussed. And again, this kind of enthusiasm about China, about this kind of lovely market, lovely people, hardworking people. It's true that people are really hardworking and so on. And the market used to be really very big, but they don't realize that today's market is changed. It is changed. So this is a very stupid side of the German, for example, automobile industry. So I really don't understand why they stick to this kind of perception which was existent 10 years ago. You know, that's the problem. Actually, let's say if we talk about the cooperation in scientific research between the universities, then German is one of the most active one with China. I mean, in the actually Americans they were also active, but they have already ceased or to reduce dramatically the such kind of cooperation because they know that it won't be in favor of us. But Germans don't realize that. Somehow, it's kind of, as I said, the perception is still old. They don't notice the change in China. Actually, the political landscape in China is different. So in this sense, I will say somehow we do have a doubt when German will finally realize, will see the reality. So the problem here is that between Germany and the EU, there is a gap in terms of the perception of China, in terms of the, let's say, design of the China policy and so on. It's a huge gap. And how is it possible that German as a economic locomotive in Europe and has huge gap with the EU? Germany is part of the EU, and that is the problem.
Indeed, and we know that even the smaller countries of the EU, like Lithuania, Latvia, they have a quite different foreign policy towards China compared to Germany, quite a different one. But you have mentioned already the US and how the US tries to reduce its dependency on China, but still the dependency of the US is huge, and the US economy is one of the most important economies of the world. We are facing now the presidential elections in the US, which will take place in 1 month. How strong is the leverage of the US towards China? And where are the vulnerabilities of the US foreign policy and economic policy, which President Xi can use?
Yeah, we can put it this way. The US is almost the single country in the democratic camp which still has the leverage, say, against all the authoritarian countries, including China. In that sense, I think, this will this constellation will still exist, but it always depends how powerful the technology is, how powerful the economy is. Actually, in terms of technologies, then we should also should realize this kind of fact that both sides, the Chinese side and the American side, they are approaching. China is catching up. So in that sense, I think U.S. is also losing its influence with time. Yeah, but in terms of election, then I would say the former President Trump, he's simply a disaster for the U.S., for the American nation, for the world, for the global democracy. So in this sense, I really don't understand why less than or almost half of the Americans still support him. But anyhow, I don't think that he will win the election. That is not only hope, that is also my estimate. I will say, I think although all the nations we have to get prepared for such kind of plan B, That is, in case he really seized the power, then the situation could be totally different. Anyhow, he's a businessman. He's not a politician. That's the difference. I mean, this is a businessman. Is still kind of lightly say expressed. Actually, such a guy. I don't think that he can lead such great country. I mean, like the U.S. Anyhow, what I wanted to say is that actually Europe could become a second, say, power in the democratic camp, but the point is that there is lack of ability say in terms of the leadership and in terms of the the unity of say the whole membership member states and so on. And this is, I think, up to now, the EU hasn't solved this problem. So that is why the EU won't remain a powerhouse for the global politics. It's really sad, but it's the reality.
Indeed, and once again, as you have mentioned already, the lack of understanding what steps are important and how decisive these steps should be has already led some European countries, including Germany, to a situation when their position in negotiations or in other communication is weaker than it used to be before. Thank you so much. It was a very insightful interview on what factors are driving the current Chinese leadership and where are their interests and how they can develop their influence inside the country and outside the country. Thank you, Professor Junhua Zhang. Once again, Professor Zhang is a senior associate at the European Institute for Asian Studies, and he also a guest professor of the American University in Kyiv, Ukraine. Thank you so much for your insightful interview, Professor Zhang.
Thank you. Yeah.
And don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe to this channel so you will never miss interviews like this.